And so what we are doing is we are remembering that we are sovereign beings, that there is such a unique code within each and every one of us, that each and every one has a divine, and we are here to be in our fullest expression, to do what it is we are here to do, that our souls have signed up for.
Jemie.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really happy to. Are you ready to go on a journey with me?
Let's go.
Beautiful. So, Jemie, I'm really curious to learn more about you. I'd love to learn what is your service, what it is that you're here to do, and what is it that you're most passionate about when it comes to your mission?
It's very simple.
Good.
It is to be here in service to humanity for the highest source.
Okay.
And part of that means to help remember who we truly are, what we came here to do. Part of it is to help people understand how to also heal and thrive in today's world. Because what we need to understand is we're no longer living in the world that our parents and our grandparents grew up in. We're living in 2025 with a lot of invisible forces at play that are oftentimes keeping us in a state of disease and illness and disconnection. And so a lot of this is learning how to reconnect back into our bodies and remembering who we truly are and what we came here to do.
Beautiful. So I want to pause here because just in those few sentences, there's several hours of conversation. And so what I love to do when speaking, I can feel the layers and the years of experience and embodiment behind your words. And for those who don't know you and who are even listening to your words, and they can feel the resonance in their soul, but they're like, what is this lady actually talking about? I want to give an answer to them. Would you play with me?
Yes, of course.
Beautiful. So the first part of what you shared is you're here to be in service of humanity and good. I share that mission. And if we were to double click on it, I'm really curious, in your frame of reality, what does it mean to be of service to all of humanity? How do you define that?
Ooh, that is a really good question. The first word that comes to me is just being the embodiment of the work. Part of it is doing deep inner work and deep inner healing of myself. Going into all the places and spaces to start to really understand where energy is stuck in the body, where there is unresolved trauma, where there are triggers, where there are resistance, and to really slow down and understand all of those nuances, what is coming up for me in this very moment. How can I make a conscious choice and decision in what is presenting itself in a physical form, in this physical reality to me? And how do I make a choice from a place of health and well-being so that I can continue to thrive? And in that embodiment is also then sharing with others what I have discovered throughout my lived experience, throughout my lifetime of dealing with sickness and disease in my own body, and how I have helped and support thousands of other individuals to do the same for them. And part of this is also reminding them that they are the CEO of their health and of their body. And so much of this is a reclamation of our birthright and showing and embodying what it means to reclaim your birthright. Whether that is as simply as remembering that your body has its own innate intelligence on how to heal itself. And so this is about empowering you with that conscious decision and not giving your power away so easily. And this is all about making sure that our bodies are always in a clean and clear state so that we can continue to tap into the divine. So that which is out there that is divine is also within us. And if the divine is within us, then our bodies are vessels and containers of the divine. So this is a remembrance of how divine and how powerful you truly are.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing from what you've shared is the way that you arrived to the place where your mission became to be of service to others and to humanity is through your own inner excavation of self.
Correct.
And what I'm also hearing, which you have said but haven't fully said yet, is I'm hearing that your unique pathway in your own healing and inner excavation has been through your body, and it's been through your health. And what that does is it brings a lot of curiosity, because what I find is that ultimately, when it comes to conscious leadership and people who share missions such as yourself, we all end up in the same final, path, the path of heart, which is some variation of I'm here to support and contribute and help others with their mission. But what I'm most curious about is the actual path that gets us there. Because if you take a step back, the answer is also very common. That is some variation of I did the work, the personal work. And if we peel back one more layer of that, the personal work is your own personal story and your own personal journey of how you even got to do the personal work. And what I'm hearing is that your vehicle was something to do with your health.
Yes.
Because we could just as easily be sitting here having the same exact copy-paste conversation, and you could be naming relationships because of maybe your past with love and relationships. Or we could be having a conversation about wealth coding because you mastered the art of money, right? But we're specifically talking about your body, the vessel, the health, which is your signature that you carry. So I am curious, what happened? Why health?
Yeah, so I came onto this path through my own healing journey, and this was back in 2017. I had all of these mysterious symptoms come up for me where lots of my hair was falling out. I was waking up in the middle of the night in puddles of sweat. I developed brain fog where I couldn't formulate a regular sentence nor have a conversation like this. And at that point, I plummeted into the depths of depression. Up until that point, I actually struggled with depression even as a child. So I considered myself a very high-functioning depressive person. And I just got really good at masking to the world that everything was fine. To the outside world, it looked like I had it all together. I had all success by societal's metrics of success. And, I was running 8-figure businesses. I was working with some of the most influential people in the world. I was in rooms with politicians, billionaires. I mean, it just looked like I had it all together. I had all the money that I needed. I had my own home. I could travel wherever I wanted. And, but inside I was dying. And I got to a point where my health had deteriorated so much. I had spent tens of thousands of dollars seeing all types of Western medical doctors. I had ran so many different tests, tried every single antidepressant, SSRIs, supplement, fad diet, you name it. I tried it, nothing worked for me. And I was quickly running out of hope. And I got to a place where I lost all sense of purpose to my life. And I quite frankly didn't want to live anymore. And I went from this very extroverted person where I could go into any room in any event and people would recognize me and I would know everyone's names, to then completely isolating myself and going away from the world. I isolated myself so much that my own family and mother didn't even know what I was going through. And out of the blue, in this abyss of hell, I received 2 phone calls in a span of 1 week's time from 2 people in my life that I really respect. And in those 2 separate conversations, both of them shared with me how plant medicine, specifically ayahuasca, was very transformative for them. Now, up until that point, I've never done drugs. I've never even drunk in my life. I grew up in a very Christian household. When I wasn't at school, I was at church. When I wasn't at church, I was at school. And it was designed that way because home was never safe. I grew up with a father who was an alcoholic, very, very abusive. My mother, unfortunately ended up taking some of that on, where she was in constant survival mode after my father was taken away by the police when they found that he was being very abusive with me. So never doing drugs. I hear about ayahuasca and I immediately thought to myself, this is so fringe. This is so out there. This is crazy. The last reference I remember ever hearing about ayahuasca was seeing a documentary on National Geographic featuring war veterans that went into the jungle to do ayahuasca. And I had a lot of preconceived notions, really old beliefs that really wasn't mine to begin with. But I was at a place where I thought weed was crack. I kind of lumped them all together. And so I sat with a lot of fear. But one thing I'm very grateful for is I've always considered myself spiritual, and I paid attention to signs. And I really sat with deep inquiry and prayer of why this thing was coming to my field twice in 1 week. And it was that inquiry that made me jumping down the rabbit hole to research everything I could about plant medicine, ayahuasca, psychedelics. And even looking at all of this information back in 2017, I just felt so much fear. And I really had to understand and question and ask myself, what is underneath the fear? And it was the fear of the unknown and the fear of death. And coming to that realization, I had another part come in and ask me, what is on the other side of fear? And the word freedom came through, and it just rang through my body. 2 days later, I jumped on a flight to Costa Rica. I sat with ayahuasca for 4 nights, and it not only lifted me out of my depression for the first time in my life, it saved my life. So it furthermore gave me a renewed sense of purpose that in everything that I do is to be in service to humanity for the highest source. And from there, it's been a deep path of devotion, a deep labor of love to this work, and to really understand how do we start to heal from a root cause level. That these symptoms that are oftentimes manifested, whether it's anxiety, depression, PTSD, addiction, autoimmune issues, that these are all symptoms to a deeper root cause. And so a lot of my work focuses on how can we bring in work in conjunction with plant medicine, psychedelics, nutrition, detox, parasite cleansing, reducing toxic burden into the body and in and around your environment. How do we detox? How do we parasite cleanse so that we can start to remove all of these interferences and all of this toxic burden out of us, to enable our soul and our spirit to fully inhabit our body so we can be in our fullest expression, so we can have our realized potential.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let's pause there, and I want to rewind to that retreat where you sat 4 days with ayahuasca, you lifted out of your depression, and then you had this insight that essentially has informed your entire mission. Mm-hmm. In those days where that switch flipped, mm-hmm. what happened? What were the insights that came through where you flipped, you switched, and you realized this is the way?
So much happened during that time, and it's such a rich conversation that I don't think we have time for, but mm-hmm. I think just to give you the highlights mm-hmm. of it, one of the things that became very clear to me was a message that depression is a misalignment with one's soul.
Mm. Oof. Yep. That's the nugget. Tell me more. That's the one I was looking for. Tell us more.
I've always known I've had spiritual gifts. I've always known I had talents. I always known that I had deep intuition, that I can see and sense and notice a lot of things that typically people don't notice. And I suppressed that all through my life. Even when it starts to pop up a little bit, nope, go away. That's not welcome here. Let's follow everything that society, our parents, our church, everything that has been taught to us. Mm. So much of it was the unraveling of what was not mine to begin with, right? All this, the shedding of old belief systems, of narratives that really took me off my path, brought me to a place of misalignment. Mm-hmm. And to a point where, you know, our body has that intelligence and always that intuitive guidance. And it's so important for us to tune in and to hear it. But what oftentimes my coping mechanism was work harder, hustle harder, be that, you know, like boss, and like, you know, just keep getting at it, like break through, like there is no pain, like you can transcend all pain, right? Like it was just like forsaking all of the signals and the messages that my body was telling me, to a point where it starts to crescendo and it brings you to your knees to literally look at it dead in the face. And so for me, it manifested into disease in the body, these symptoms, all these mysterious symptoms that doctors couldn't understand, right? And a lot of times too, it's a spiritual disease. It's a spiritual disease because we're so off track. We are not tuning in, and we are not listening to that intuitive guidance, that divine that is within us.
I want to pause you there, Jamie, because your story, what you're sharing, is not just your story. And I think you know that. It's a story of the collective. It's a story of many. We're all connected in our own. I believe that we all have our own unique connection to the divine and our own unique gifts to bring through in the world.
Yes.
But what you're sharing is a story that I've heard many, 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 many times, which is I was disconnected from my gifts. I was disconnected from hearing the voice.
Right.
From hearing spirit moving through me, and instead I ... became an alcoholic ... became addicted to love ... stopped valuing myself, overworked, became a top high performer,
Right.
and insert the thousands of different variations that this manifests. In your case, I became depressed. And I'm curious about, when we look at this misalignment of soul, which for you specifically manifested as depression. And all of what you shared is that the process to lift out of that was the cleaning up of the conditioning and letting go of everything that is not you. But I'm curious, like you having the community that you do and the experience that you have in navigating and leading yourself out of this journey, why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we so disconnected? What's going on?
Yeah. I want to zoom out for a moment to see really externally what is at play here. Like, let's really take a moment to bring the invisible to the visible. So on one hand, there is a suppression, a hijacking of the biology, and this is done through surveillance, digital tracking, mining of our body's electrical signals. There is another layer of engineering our food, our media, our music for control. And there are now, this is public information, this is public documentation. This is not science fiction. This is happening now already, where, for example, Microsoft has a publicly filed patent that speaks to harnessing and mining the brain's activity and body's electrical signals and connecting with cryptocurrency. So what does that mean? Let's go deeper with another example. Imagine where there is a government that says, you must take this vaccine, and if you don't, we are going to cut you off from your bank account. So all of this data is being mined, and there is a centralized power. What is the centralized power? It could be corporate interests, it could be big pharma, it could be oligarchies and global elites that is extracting, harnessing energy for their agenda, for their greed, whatever that is, for money, whatever, for even more than that, extraction of souls, extraction of energy. So let's take a moment to then look at on the other side of it, where this is about also reclaiming our sovereignty and really valuing our freedom. And so part of that is healing ourselves, because when we're healing, it's an act of rebellion. When we are resting, when we are playing, when we are restoring our nervous system, this is an act of rebellion, because essentially it enables the individuals to return back to themselves and not be manipulated, not be swept up, not be influenced. There's a symbiotic relationship in a very parasitic system. And this is on a micro and a macro level. And this concept of parasites and parasitic energies and parasitic system is one of the most underspoken about topics out there, especially when it comes to healing. And there's a whole rabbit hole we can go down in terms of that. But really what is happening is there are external forces at play that are oftentimes disconnecting us for control. And so what we are doing is we are remembering that we are sovereign beings, that there is such a unique code within each and every one of us, that each and every one has the divine. And we are here to be in our fullest expression, to do what it is we are here to do, that our souls have signed up for. Mm-hmm. Right? And so what is happening externally also happens and reflects internally. So if we just take a moment to look into the micro, a really great analogy to use is not only are we energetic beings, but we are a direct reflection of nature. So if we take the analogy of a tree and a human body as the tree, right? There is the soil, right? What is that soil, what is being poured into the soil, which creates and reflects our microbiome, right? What's happening in our gut is also reflective of the soil, which is bacteria, it's the microorganisms, it's the fungi. So having that healthy microbiome enables us to flourish. But what's happening is that soil is being contaminated. It's being contaminated externally with glyphosate, mold, parasites, EMF. So if that is that, compromised soil, then our roots, which is our feet, is soaking all of that up to the trunk, which then is creating instability. And when that instability happens, then what does the branches branch out to? To coping. Because in that instability, we're losing ourselves. It's a disconnection. It's feeling lost. It's feeling like misaligned. And when that happens, then the branches then turns into coping mechanisms. Because the pain is too much. It's just too much. We can't cope with it. So then you cope with porn. You cope with vaping. You cope with whatever it is to escape the pain. Mm-hmm. And from there, what does the branches blossom into? Because if that life force energy is being compromised by all of this toxicity and all of this other negative energetic beings that are overtaking our systems, then it's blossoming into disease. It's blossoming into illness and unrealized potential. So then if we step into this place of consciousness and look at how do we reclaim our sovereignty, how do we reclaim our agency and freedom here, and looking at that soil, right? Cleaning up that soil, making sure that we're cleaning up what's in our gut, in our environment. We created and invented what's called the 12 foundational principles to heal and thrive in today's world. And that 12 foundational principle is what we are rooting from. And those 12 foundational principles speak to everything from nutrition, right? Studies have shown that there's a direct correlation between anxiety, depression, and inflammation in the body, right? And I can get into all the other 12 foundational principles, but just an example. So now if we are rooting from those 12 foundational principles, then all of a sudden our trunk is coming from a place of stability. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes sense. Yeah.
Coming from a place of more connection. And when we are stable in our trunk, then it branches out to what?
Abundance, health, freedom.
Abundance, health, freedom, and the blossoms become all of the what is manifested in our lives, right? That is where we can receive our abundance and flow. So many people, for example, have money wounds. And so how do we heal those money wounds? By fortifying ourselves so that we can be in a place to now receive that abundance. Money follows energy. It's a currency. So if our life force is depleted, then how, even if money comes into our life, it just leaks out, it floats away. But if we can fortify ourselves and cleanse our body, resourcing our nervous system so we can hold for more capacity, for more abundance to come in, then not only are we going to be able to be in the receptivity state of receiving abundance in our lives, we're now able to hold on to it and to be great stewards of it. And that is where we can start to realize our goals, our potential, what we are manifesting and what we are calling into our life. But so much, oftentimes people forget this. The psychedelics, the plant medicine is there to be in relationship with us, but that oftentimes is 10% of the work. It comes in for rest, renewal. It's that gardener that kind of comes in and twirls the soil up. And it gives you that window of opportunity to then bring in the lifestyle tools so you can have longer lasting sustainable results. And the 90% of it is the integration, is the lifestyle tools, is then the 12 foundational principles that speak to the nutrition, that speaks to reducing EMF in the environment. EMF, Studies have shown that EMF breaks down the membranes of the cells, right? So unfortunately, that Bluetooth device that you're wearing in your head that's cordless, it is sending radiation into your brains, and it's breaking down the membranes of your brain cells. It's also compromising the immune system. It lowers testosterone in men. And the EMF can also activate and stimulate growth of parasites in your body and mold in the environment. 70% of American households have some form of mold. Parasites love mold, they love sugar, they love chemicals and milk. So all of this is feeding into this other foreign entity that starts to overtake your body. And parasites are everywhere. The allopathic world will have you believe that this is a third world issue. Parasites are everywhere. They are coming by way of our food, our water, the air that we breathe, the ground that we are walking on, right? And they're always going to be there. They're there. But when you are in a healthy state, you're able to ensure that this parasitic energy isn't overtaking your body. But what is happening is that when you are sick, put more antibiotics. Well, that antibiotic starts to ruin the gut lining. It starts to compromise your immune system. When your immune system is compromised, when your gut lining is compromised, then the parasitic activity, the parasitic infection starts to take over. And parasites, if you look at it from a spiritual lens, parasites are a negative foreign entity that has entered into your body without your permission. And so oftentimes our clients that we have resourced, we work with thousands of clients, they all report the similar things, that when the parasites are leaving their bodies, they are noticing that there are parasitic energies and people leaving their lives at the same time. Why? Because they're no longer an energetic match, right? These parasites are no longer taking their life force internally and externally. And so oftentimes, right, when what happens, you have the narcissist and you have the empaths, and the empath starts to somehow attract the narcissist, like, the insects to a bright light. Well, oftentimes they are overtaken by parasitic energies.
What I'm hearing with all of this, and thank you for sharing, because there's so many layers to this. And as I'm taking in what you're sharing, what I see in my mind's eye is an ecosystem. And that's what we're really talking about. I find this to be true. I've gone through my own health journey as well. And I find this to be true not just in health, but also in business. It's like anything, in love and relationships. It's not just about the parasite cleanse, or not just about the ayahuasca journey, or not just about, cleaning up your environment.
Yes.
And what I see a lot of people, where the break is that they go all in the medicine journeys, or they go all in the gut cleanse and detoxing and things like that. And the same way that you would go all in and going to the gym every day, but then still not be cleaning up your diet and wonder why you don't yet have the six-pack, right?
Exactly.
And what I'm hearing is that there is an entire ecosystem that comes with when we talk about cleaning our vessel out so that our soul can fully land on the body, and detoxifying our body. It's an ecosystem of different principles, which is what I'm hearing is these 12 principles that you teach, where when we need to look at all of them together, and there is a process. And what I have seen and noticed, and again, reading behind the lines, is that it's only overwhelming when you're not aware of what's in the garden, right? When you have a garden and you're a gardener, and it's like, there's a tree, we're growing tomatoes, we're growing potatoes, and you actually start to become aware of everything that's in the garden. It's not a big, overwhelming, messy, I don't know how to do this project anymore.
Yes.
It's just a matter of learning the tree needs this.
Exactly.
The potatoes need this. The tomatoes need this. What the tomatoes need is not what the potatoes need. And actually being able to develop the tools, the wisdom, and the practice of being able to tend to your garden as in a whole regenerative ecosystem, rather than something that you start just only paying attention to the apple tree, and then the tomatoes start to suffer because you're not giving the tomatoes what they need, or you're giving something that's toxic to the tomatoes but good for the apple tree, but you're not thinking about one and the other. Exactly. And I find that in our journey, and even when you're speaking about capacity and energy, it's practice, but it's very important to start to see the garden as a whole and understand why we're growing that garden in the first place.
Yeah, and understand that you are the gardener.
Exactly.
Not the corporate interests, not the oligarchies, right? Not the big pharma. You are the gardener.
Yes.
Because you are that sovereign being.
Exactly.
And so I love that you really brought out that ecosystem analogy, and the way we chart it out is around a circle, right? It's all cyclical. It's seasonal. And there's 12 foundational principles, but in the middle, there's a 13. and that's you.
It reminds me of the when you speak on the Andean medicine wheel, right? And just the process of going through the seasons, of going through the I think of the archetype of the snake, of like shedding your old skin and realizing that you need to make a difference, and then going into the archetype of the jaguar, where you have to go into the depths of your own biggest fears, stories, attachments, and actually when you come out of the other side, you find the hummingbird, which is reconnecting to your gifts, and then you come into the eagle, which is giving them to the world. And so what I really love about your mission, your specific flavor of your mission, is that this journey can happen in any which way. It's in health, the wealth, in love, relationships. But the physical component of this journey is really around, we're here in 3D reality, like in our body, to be here, to have this beautiful experience. And our health is it. It's like
wealth.
It's our wealth. Yeah.
Yes.
And so I'm curious, as anyone listening has just learned such deep richness of health and the importance of managing and being the gardener of this ecosystem. So if you were to leave whoever's listening with this knowledge, but actually we turn it into something practical, right? I would love to hear your thoughts. You were speaking about the lifestyle tools. Somebody who is like, okay, you know what? I get it. I'm sold on this concept of this is an ecosystem. I'm the gardener. Okay, but now what?
Yeah.
What next?
Yes. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's been 10 years of bringing all of those tools together. And what we have presented is a beautiful roadmap and a framework through one of our offerings called the microdosing method. Yes, we're leading with microdosing, but that's just one of the 12 components. On that note, with microdosing, it's microdosing not for tripping, it's microdosing for tuning, and microdosing in a safe, intentional, spiritually aligned way. Because when you do that, that gives you that optimal experience to tune in, to tap in to that greater and higher intelligence out there and also within yourself. And along that, we take them on a journey of really understanding and resourcing them and educating about every single principle in that 12-step framework. The whole idea is meeting the individual where they're at, because it all can sound very overwhelming. You're like, oh my God, I got the EMF, I got the food, I got the household products that's toxic, I got my pots and pans and blah, 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 right? And this is about taking small steps, just like microdosing, taking small steps. And by the way, this is also so good to resource with when it comes to the nervous system, right? To just take these small steps to then expand our capacity slowly. So whether it's when you look at the 12 principles on the wheel and tuning into what area in my life am I really feeling like I'm really drawn to working on. So for example, if it's just nutrition, doesn't have to be plant medicine, it's just nutrition. Great. So we have a whole resource guide on all the foods that are non-inflammatory and really teaching people how to eat in that non-inflammatory way. So we look at principles around like eating gluten-free, lectin-free, sugar-free, alcohol-free to reduce the inflammation even down to the cellular level and also within the body. And so we give everyone all of these tools, all of these guides. And it's not a one-size-fits-all, but it's a good foundational framework to start with. And then you get to A/B test and experiment what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So tomatoes might work for you, but it might make me feel really bloated, right? And so let me eliminate that. So it's really coming down to the practicalities. Because yes, we can speak about all these esoteric, spiritual, beautiful experiences, but we also showed up here and we landed here in this planet, choosing to live in this system. So this is a guide on how to help you live in this system so that you can continue to flourish in this system. It's giving you so much guidance and protocols. We have so many different protocols depending on what you want to work on in your life. And for example, we have a client who wasn't called to plant medicine or microdosing, but the first thing we did was help him with his nutrition because he's like, hey, I really need to start cleaning up my diet. So as we started helping him and guiding him through that, in 2 weeks' time, he's like, oh my God, I feel so much more energy. And great, you feel more energy? I want to do more. What else can I do now? I'm starting to feel called to do microdosing. Okay, Let's help resource you on doing microdosing in that safe, intentional, spiritually aligned way. And in a week's time, he's like, wow, I'm feeling like I'm getting so many more downloads and my business is doing better than it's ever had in these last few weeks. I'm making better decisions for my business. I'm making better decisions for myself. I'm making better decisions for my family. I'm cooking better, not only for myself, but now for my children. What else can I do? Great. Let's look at cleaning up your immediate environment. Does that feel in resonance for you? Great. What pots and pans are we using? Are we using our Teflon pans? Because you can be sourcing the most organic grass-fed ingredients, but if your Teflon pans are there cooking your food, guess what? It's leaching chemicals into the food. So let's eliminate that. Let's look at the toothpaste you're using for your children. Let's look at the cereals. Like, let's do a whole audit of your immediate environment so it's giving you the cleanest, purest ingredients. And the rule of thumb there is if you cannot read, recognize, or pronounce an ingredient, it doesn't belong in your body or on you. Our skin is our largest organ, right? So we need to treat our entire body as if it is a holy temple. We are the container of the divine, so our bodies are a holy temple. So then how do we really love and take care of ourselves? Because when we really love and take care of ourselves, then we can love and take care of others and truly show up for them in our communities. So the work begins with us first. And if you feel called to do the medicine, great. We are going to give you the safest foundation because it's in that safety that you can show up in your fullest, ready to do your work. And we're going to give you the cleanest, purest ingredients, all organic, free of mycotoxins, free of heavy metals. Because this is also about eliminating that toxic burden out of your body so you can start to heal and you can tune in.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What a beautiful transmission. What I'm hearing is just the clarity of this process is that it's step by step. It's at your own pace.
Yes.
It's an instruction manual, but your soul is going to call the shots. And you work with intuition. You work with resonance. The own person's own, like the client that you said, wherever they feel they must go first is where their soul is leading them first. And that is the way in. And that's the pathway in.
Yes.
And the system that has been developed is to guide them in their own unique way through the journey they need to go through, but they're still being contained by the system. And the system has principles, which is toxin-free, clarity. It's the material is like everything, the products, the things that are being given are toxin-free, are clear, healthy, but underneath that, what I'm also feeling is the values of freedom, the values of sovereignty, the values of deep connection with self, divine, other. And those values then create the actual material manifestation, which is the ingredients you're recommending, the plant medicine that's being given. And it's within a structure where people can follow and they can find their way around the circle, but they won't be spiraling. They'll be going upwards. So what I really love about your mission, Jemie, is the way that in your unique way, you're anchoring it through the body. And that your act of rebellion, the rebellion you're leading is this freedom that comes through, unlocks in our physical body. And that allows us, that gives us the spaciousness to come up, to think, to the emotions that we feel when we're looking. And I know it's all integrated for you, the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, the mental. But I really value the way that you're allowing and you're creating a space for people to reconnect to the body as vessel, to the body as temple, to the body as something that is a holy manifestation of who we are and who we came here to be. And through that, we get to experience the physical material world through just the deep purity and richness of our soul. We get to experience ourselves because this entire thing is built for fun and joy and bliss and pleasure. And to do this cleanup work allows us to actually get to experience that much sooner than we would have otherwise if we just kept unconsciously walking through this path. So thank you so much for what you shared with us today. That was a really beautiful and profound transmission. And is there, as we close up, is there anything you would like to leave us with?
The word embodiment comes through. This is not about the chase of the experience. This is about the grounding of the lessons that we have been shown. And then we get to show up moment to moment, day to day, slowing down, pausing, seeing what's coming up, understanding the nuances. It's counterintuitive because it's in the slowness that we can go faster. Because when you slow down, you can start to see the nuances. When you start to see the nuances, you make better decisions. When you make better decisions, you're in alignment, and then now you're on your path,
Beautiful.
right?
The art of slowing down.
That are slowing down, which is also resourcing the nervous system. And we are here to hold your hand every step of the way. This is why we created Psychable. It's to be with you on this whole life cycle. And if you don't know something, we have that information for you. And it's a good place for you to start. And then you get to make it for what feels true for you. But this is a place where it's aggregating all of the overwhelming information and really distilling it down to its simplicity.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
An honor and privilege. Thank you so much.